Namaste.
Namaste. Good morning, good evening, good
Yes.
afternoon.
And welcome to Stockholm. We are
And
now
yeah, we're waving at Stockholm. Hi, you
virtually.
guys.
Yes. We have a spreader event occurring in Stockholm right
Oh,
now.
God.
Well, welcome. Let's embrace the fear, right? Let's embrace the fear.
Oh, God.
Okay. All right. So welcome you all. We have a fair number of new people. I'm glad to invite you all joining us into this inquiry. Uh, this is the beginning of a series, right? We're doing today and tomorrow, and then the intensive on Saturday. And so the nature of this is to build a momentum in terms of being able to bring forward that in us, which separates us from our divine reality and therefore our purpose in life. And part of this is learning to come into relationship with issues and structures that we're not familiar with or have successfully bypassed or avoided in the course of our lives. So, welcome to Beyond Fear. It is certainly one of the most defining characteristics in the human system that separate us from a right relationship with existence. So, we're not going to be able to cover the vastness of the fabric of the role of fear and all the different aspects, but we can begin to enter into a conversation about getting familiar with fear. Because, like shame or danger, these are doorways. They're all entry points into coming into relationship with existence more fully. So the idea here is to be able to develop a way of holding what before you weren't paying attention to or were caught up in or were so vigorously living with that you didn't know it was there. And that's the power of fear. It's a basic corruption, you might say, of the possibility of being that comes as a consequence of being self-aware people, right? The problem of self-awareness is we separate ourselves from the oneness that everything else living is connected to. Now, we don't know that's the problem because there's so many advantages to being self-aware, to wake up and to discover and to create and to explore and all these other things, to have choice, to have mobility, but the price we pay carries with it this separation from the purposeful current that holds all the rest of existence. So this is kind of pointing to what beyond fear means or what it reflects is really our ability to be in the right relationship with existence, which brings us to a conversation of faith. Because if we look at the nature of our ability to know our own resilience, our own yet to be discovered qualities of ourself, then we don't have access to the inevitable evolution of ourselves as human beings and as spiritual beings as life unfolds. And we have a tendency thereby to cling to what we know, to pull away, even consciously or semi-consciously or unconsciously, from that new territory that very likely becomes a doorway to the next unfolding of our developmental self. Ultimately, it is about coming into existence in a way where fear is not the definer of what's possible for us. So the opportunity here, what we're going to do is we're going to look to explore as a conversation. First, it's going to be whatever comes forward, and then in the later part, interacting with you in this particular focus. Because the way I see that we can use our self-awareness is our intelligence, our discerning, informed intelligence, and its capacity to explore territory in domains that our emotional and physical body would not willingly go. You see, if you're in a battlefield, fear is very much on the surface, especially in the immediacy or an imminent event where there is a possibility of death. So this possibility of dying, or would I say the peril, comes forward. It's inevitable. That fear will reveal itself, and you will begin to find and discover, and most importantly, learn to live with that event that occurs when you're on the imminent threshold of something where you don't know what the outcome may be. That's pointing to an extreme example. But we live in our mind is basically a virtual world. Our mind has an avatar of us in past and future and present, other presents than the ones we're living or have lived. So if you look at the nature of mind in our self-awareness, we can discover all kinds of peril from that vantage point at living into these moments that are not likely to happen, but could happen, or maybe might happen, or it happened to someone else somewhere, and therefore it could happen. So the mind in the virtual world really doesn't know fear. It just knows an idea of fear. And that idea of fear is really the idea of fear, fearing fear. So the very fundamental thing of the mind is we're very isolated from the very event of fear arising in our vital or physical body. But unwittingly, we start creating in our vital and our physical body a fear stress reaction simply through our virtual world, because everything is connected. The body, intelligence, the vital, the heart, the desires, the fear, the habits of being are all interconnected to whatever we're imagining. That's why when we go to a movie, it's just lights on a screen. In our computer, it's just lights and shape and color and events. And the mind is what makes that into a reality. And we immerse ourselves in these, and we lose ourselves in that. I mean, what do we lose? We lose the immediacy of us sitting in a chair with our computer or looking at the TV of what's actually happening. So we're in a virtual world where fear and courage and pain and loss and all this is happening, but it's all virtual, but it's impacting our whole system. So if you begin to look at the nature of that which fears, you begin to question the part that is the best fear creator of all, this thing. It's projections, it's imaginations, it's taking the past structures of things that may have happened to you that you don't want to have happen again, either consciously or unconsciously, and having a filter that looks out, peeks out through its boundaries of safety and comfort and familiarity and says, oh, is that scary or not? Is that worth it or not? Do I want to be there or not? And therefore, what begins to organize what's possible for us is our fear story, is the past, present, future story that we are unwittingly being defined by due to this unmet part, this incapacity in us to be able to come into existence without the approximations of mind, without fully understanding, without being able to go beyond the calculation of benefit or loss, to come into life without the filters. See, that would be terrifying for someone on a fear-based reality. So it's inevitable on spiritual path, as it is in the course of a dynamic life where you encounter much of life through the consequences of your activities and your work and your circumstances. In that it forces you to discover how you're limiting yourself, how you're defining what's possible. So the important thing about your awakened consciousness, the important thing about this quality of awareness or experience that you've come to, is you connecting to something larger than you thought you were. You're connected to what you are, both in your awareness or in your experience, this greater being, this greater capacity for knowing. And so inherent in that is the capacity to be able to see the blinders, to see how we're unwittingly defining reality based on past experience or structures, such as being overwhelmed when we were children, such as pain or loss or grief, that shape our ability, our how we define the present and the future moments, what might happen and what could happen. So we begin to get right down to the roots of the very visceral structure that actually lives in our body. It's the reptilian organization of our human embodiment that has fear as a fundamental basis of our physical existence. Now, that's not so much there in a child. If you look at children, fear is not defining. It's comfort or discomfort. It's having attention or not having attention. So they don't know fear, but that's because they're ignorant. And that's tamasic relationship with fear, is you don't know you're in, that there is anything to be afraid of. But of course, that naivete makes you vulnerable to the inevitable events that happen when you're a child crawling around and you're looking at this interesting flame coming out of the stove and you want to touch it, right? What was that? So there's a shock, an event, right? And that event triggers this primal root of, oh God, there's things I don't know that I may need to worry about. Maybe I need to be more safe. I need to make sure I'm safe. I make sure it's okay. And maybe somebody else knows how to do that because I now found out I don't know jack shit. So really, fear is actually an opening to the physical reality of our embodiment. That's where it starts. It starts that you can fall and hurt. You can play and play and play, and then you get exhausted and cranky because you need food or rest. There is these limits to what you can do as you're coming into existence that begin to become the basis of caution or fear or hesitancy or suspicion or distrust, self-distrust or distrust around you. So when we begin to talk about the conversation of fear, we're talking about an architectural design structure right there in the fabric of the organization of our individual self as a person and as a being coming into the fullness of the truth of what we are. These habits, these patterns, of course, are embedded in the body. And of course, fear can come up in many different ways. It can be fear, but what your experience is anger. What you experience is a reaction of judgment or speech or a fighting attitude, which isn't listening or receiving anything, but attacking imagined and real fears indiscriminately. Protection, so aggressive defensiveness. And then there's a passive defensiveness where you never come out of the shell of yourself. And you just sneak along the way and then express your anger and your judgment in ways that you can't be found out. Being the source of. The strategies of betrayal and manipulation, lies and deceit. See, are you kind of getting it? Right? You're kind of recognizing how this is, it's not just this neurotic thing where we're caught in our mind about what might happen, what could happen, what did happen, and maybe could happen again. This is a spinning in the virtual reality. But really, we're looking to try to find the fundamentals of fear because it has a place, right? It teaches a child to be careful about fire. It has a place as we come into existence to have reasonable caution or fear about things that we do not yet know or aware of are danger or risky or could harm us or others. So how do we do this? is we have to learn how to be with fear. Now, we either do that as human beings because the course of life is inevitably going to bring events that you didn't know or unexpected that cause suffering or pain or diminishment or anguish or loss. So therefore, there is this learning how to come into existence that will inevitably be teaching us how to do that. We'll say, okay, go there. There's a greater likelihood of things working than if you go there. So it is an early discerning. It's a waking up to the peril of having a body in existence. Now, unfortunately, we live in bubbles. We live in a civilized world. We don't have to go out and farm and fight off the Indians or fight off the wild animals or the attacks of other tribes. We live in this bubble of relatively low risk, speaking historically. Of course, there's many things that happen even in that bubble, but the principle is mostly we live in anticipation of something we don't yet know, even if everything around us is so comparatively safe. I mean, and just look at here in isolated, Washoe Valley, where people on acre or larger lots, and the fear around the pandemic, it's just like, oh my God. And what happens with fear is we end up with a distorted relationship with reality, at least until we know better. And if you look at the way the pandemic hit the world, first it was like, yeah, this can't be, that's not anything. That's Tamasic fear, the denial. Then it's, oh my God, what could this be? And then there's that overreaction. But after a while, after you've lived in your house for some months, you become used to that fear in a way that is no longer shaping going outside and seeing some friends or going to the movie or the rest. You begin to get more comfortable. And therefore, then the fear becomes a more realistic assessment of what is actually happening in your relationship with that. So when we come to the spiritual path, one of the bitches of the spiritual path is we don't live in our body. We go into a domain which is essentially virtual relative to our embodiment, and we begin to experience things of different dimensions and different aspects. And unfortunately, we bring the blinders of our fear-adapted self into those domains. And we become afraid or suspicious or distrustful. Now, some of these are practical cautions. Some of these are actually unwarranted adaptations that prevent us from moving into relationship with just actually a newness, something we do not yet know, something that's outside of the boundary of our existence. So how to be with fear, how to recognize a truth or an untruth of that component that arises in us when we find ourselves vulnerable or uncertain, when we find ourselves in a moment of peril, a possible loss, or a possible frustration of a desired outcome. This is part of the opportunity that fear as a doorway becomes. It gives a context that's other than fear itself. It gives a context that says fear is a doorway into a more true relationship with existence in all its dimensions, from the lowest physical survival struggles to the efforting of yourself coming into existence and getting approval and finding a place for yourself, or in taking care of your children or your loved ones, or in your awakening process, trusting a teacher, trusting the process, learning how to expand into the unlimited boundaries of possibilities that spirituality open up for us. So this is a very relevant conversation to this work, to have a context, to recognize that if fear is arising, either in your mind or in your vital or in your body, that's an opportunity to come in existence in a way other than you've been able to before. And that includes your own spiritual existence, the ultimate fabric of existence. Now, simultaneously, it is a process. Fear is an initial reaction to something not yet known. It is a instinctive or imagined structure that comes up to address something that we don't know is there or don't yet know how to be with, or have some fear or dread about what that might mean. And therefore, the strategies of avoidance or protection or security become stronger so that you shut down the opportunity or try to control the opportunity of what fear presents. So when I look at this, I look at people who deal with physical fear, like I shared about a warrior on the battlefield, but people who deal with it regularly, like emergency people, paramedics, firefighters, the police, where fear is actually one of the organizing principles that allow them to do their job. It is this learning how to have enough presence and consciousness in the midst of fear, which might not be your own. It might be the fear of the person you're trying to help. It might be the fear that's shaping a violent confrontation between two people, man and wife, or gang members on the street. This ability to be with fear in their lives becomes a regular event. So they learn how to be with fear and fulfill their purpose. See, some people, that is their Dharma. There is their Dharma to be a warrior, to be the battlefield, that the protector, the preserver, and they're warrior-like in that. And because that's their Dharma, the fear is their doorway to what others would call courage. But for them, it's their Dharma, the fulfillment of the reason they live. And every moment they can meet that fear, it validates a quality of their own being that fulfills them in a way that they're willing to do this again, willing to take the chance, willing to live on that edge of danger. And what is that quality in them that becomes available to them that other human beings who avoid fear as a strategy or bypass it or don't have literally the opportunity or even the dharmic orientation to do would not know? Now, that quality of being we call courage. For them, it's not courage, it's their job. And it's their job because they have a sense of serving. They have a sense of helping. They have a sense of being useful. So even in the human domain, the spiritual attainments become accessible. Gita says, I am the strength of the strong. I am the strength of those who live, who have desire aligned with their purpose, with their Dharma. And that is where all these talks are leading to discover that quality of you that others may see as courage, but what you know as truth, what you know as the capacity inherent in your being is greater than what you knew before. A capacity to become in a open, vulnerable, immediate relationship with existence. So how do we grow in that? We become familiar with our fear. We begin to recognize how it shapes our perspective. We begin to notice in our body the dread or the anticipation or the anxiety, that quality of, I call existential stress, that us self-aware human beings, unique to all animals, carry, such that we create all these strange adaptations like getting drunk or sleeping a lot or, avoiding life as a conscious effort. So when we begin to look and we feel into this fundamental design that's in our vital, we begin to discover its physical roots. The physical roots of fear have a validity for the body itself, about its survival and its ability to live long enough to exist. So when we begin to meet fear, our fearing, the whole thing that fear is, which is basically a no, or at least a doubt about what's arising, we begin to move into a new relationship with existence by becoming familiar with it. Being willing to be fearful, being willing to be vulnerable, willing not to know, to be willing to be outside the boundary of what you're familiar with, the ability to speak to a group of new people you don't know, to share your innermost secrets that you've hidden from so many other people, rather than take the chance of being diminished or rejected. How many things in our life are shaped by that fundamental, true adaptation for our physical life, but gets distorted as it goes into our emotional nature and our relational nature, and it goes into our, God forbid, mind. But there is also a subtler fear called the psychic fear. And that is the fear that's essentially doubting its own existence. Psychic fear doubts its own existence. There's a psychological component of diminishment, a shame, of fear of the unknown, the boogeyman, the whole thing that creates conspiracy theories and superstitions and imaginings and ruminations that all are based on some fundamental error of imagining. And so imagining, when it comes out of the mind, is simply in our thoughts, but there's an imagining that comes out of our something between our mind and our being, which is the psychic. And that's what creates boogeymen in the closets. That's what imagines realities that actually there's no basis for. That's the one that lives in the castles it creates, where we put those people in hospitals where they're restrained and under medication, right? So this psychic imaginings compounds the problem of our awakening, because the psychic expands in our awakening. And we start meeting evidence of our fear in that psychic awakening state. And if we're not grounded, if we haven't actually found fear basis in our physicality, then fear is shaping what's possible. Right? Even talking about that, I can sense the boogeyman thing coming up. You know, the bad spirits, the dark forces, hide, 4th of July or Halloween, right? What do kids love about Halloween, right? It's just all that scary shit, right? We love the scary shit. It's actually healthy to love the scary shit, but it's still in our imagination. The scary shit brings us into a relationship of enjoyment with fear. So in fact, it can be healing to watch a scary movie. It can actually bring you into a virtual version of what's needed in your embodiment. Yeah, I remember Sri Mananda and his gang of people that he dragged around the world. We went to a place outside of Sedona where there was a teacher called Guruji, and she had this fantastic setup at the time. I thought it was really great. A living room that had like 30 reclining chairs, cushy, comfortable, where you put your feet up. And that's where she gave all her talks. That's where I learned that actually being relaxed is very helpful for meditation. But she also had this room, also cushy, with all the pornography, all the scary movies, all the movies you wouldn't want to watch, where people were obligated to watch them. And they spent their time in this kind of like basement room, no windows, no lights, this huge screen TV, and encountered all their issues as the movie unfolded. And what she recognized is that even that enabled them to come into relationship with the parts of themselves that were still unmet, that were distorting their ability to be open up to existence in a way that would serve their spiritual unfolding. So she's right on the same truth. It is why any teacher will test their students by pushing them into situations where they're outside of their boundaries, because it's recognized that when we begin to do so, we start discovering a quality we could call courage within ourselves that gives us the strength to step into life in greater immediacy and readiness. Now, so actually, it's a wonderful conversation to have. It's a wonderful discovery to be engaged in, because what you discover, and of course, this is tomorrow's talk, is freedom. What you discover is a new way to be. All right, so that's looking at the last chapter. But the principle here is that we have a true authority that fear protects us from, that keeps us safe from, that obscures our ability to know. We have a truth of being that is, by its inherent design, fearless. It doesn't exist. Now, where might that be in your life? Where's fear when you're grateful? When you're in gratitude? Is fear there? Huh? What is it when you're in love? When you're really in love, not the anticipation of getting it or losing it, but in love, is fear there? Now, you dive deep into love. Yeah, there could be. Inside human love, certainly, there could be fear as part of this shaping. But there is some states of being by which there is no fear. For example, discovering something new, or an excited sense of possibility. Although fear may be shaping that, it is a fear that actually makes the possibility more tangible. So that fear has a role by giving an edge to becoming. Fear has a role in waking us up from our tamas and from waking us into rajas. And when we become rajas, we become more aware of the peril, which then opens the doorway of waking up to our sattva, which is beyond peril. Peril is a doorway. So there is a role of fear in the waking up of human consciousness, but it's also played a role in the evolution of all of life. Fear, loss, pain, all of these were meant to assist this evolving possibility of consciousness becoming awake in existence. So fear in the most self-aware beings of creation is a part of the fabric of our coming into existence. So we don't want to throw out the fear, as the unfortunate quality of our existence these days is we live in our distraction. We live in the unimportant things. We live in the things that don't matter. And then unwittingly making them more important than any reality that is apparent to us at the moment. And then when the truck hits us, when we get bombed on, when the lightning strikes, we're unprepared. We go into blah, shock, non-existence. So fear has a role to play. I mean, in the folding of my human life, I can remember moments, physical fear came up, where I had the option of taking an action or not taking an action. And I know so many of us don't take the action that our fear is saying don't take. But I discovered it was a doorway fairly young. I discovered that when first example of that was when I was 18. When I was 15, I left home. I had no fear leaving home, leaving everything, leaving school, leaving home. I had no fear, but that was partially ignorance. Partially, my male testosterone determining a future that didn't give a damn about the consequence, right? But there was this moving into life in new ways that came out of that. We all should have a little bit, male or female, because you begin to discover that you can be different. You're much more resilient than you know. We're much more capable than we know. We're much more um, able to meet the challenges of life than we have tested ourselves usually. So in this case was, I've shared this many times, but I love to share it again. Where I was hiking with my friend. I was 18 at this time, and I've been away from home for some time. And we were looking for risks. We were looking for challenge. We were rebellious, angry male banging around, seeing where the adventure was. And we came upon this pool where we were going to set up our camp. And then we saw these kids jumping off, coming out of the sky, falling into this little pool of water. And we watched one after another doing this. And we were saying, wow, look at this. They're falling like, 100 feet. I don't know how far it was, something like, not that much, maybe 6 stories. So we went up there, found the trail, found out where they were going because they had to walk back up to do it again, right? Kids, guys, guy children, but girl children, some girl children too, loved the adventure. So we went up there, got up where they were all standing, lining up, and I looked and all I saw was a sloping hilltop. There was no visual sign that there was a pond after that dropped off. And they were just running carefully, without care, off this cliff. So I was saying, how do they do that? Because I was so present with the part of me that had never done such a thing. And it was so tangible in my body, I almost couldn't be in it. And it was so bad that running off the cliff was better than being in my body with that experience. And so I ran off the cliff. And when I was getting to the edge of the cliff, I was in hyper awareness. I couldn't see what I was jumping into. It wasn't until I leaped off the cliff that I could see the pond so far, so small away. And the thought in my mind was, I just fucked up seriously. And then there was this endless moment of maybe, 5, 6 seconds, or maybe a little bit more, the endless moment before I hit the water. And at those moments, I was in absolute terror. And I hit the water, I was fine. And I came out, I was so jazzed, so thrilled. It was like, wow, what happened? I had no idea that it was an antecedent of the rest of my life. But it was a moment of meeting the fear with this crazy thing that came up, which ended up to be some kind of courage. But it was just kind of a madness that took me beyond myself. And then my friend did it. He was bigger than me, had longer legs. And I could tell he had jumped too far. And I was worried to death for him because it looked like he was going to miss the pond. And, falling off of 6 stories is not a happy ending. But he hit it. He hit it in the shallows, but he didn't hurt himself. I mean, the mud apparently cushioned the hit. So I was aware that looking at someone else being courageous is almost as bad as being the one being courageous. It was like painful to watch. And here are these kids just hopping up, running up the mountain again, and chopping, it's like, so what is that evidence of? It's what I'm speaking of. Learning to live on the edge opens our capacity to go beyond fear. Learning the nature of the fear and how to mobilize it as a means of, in a new way. And how do you mobilize fear? You put it into your body. You got to find it in the experiential vibration of your body. Because when you do, you'll notice that it's an awakening energy in form of excitement, you might say. But Thomas will make it feel like dread. The psychic will make it into all kinds of imaginings of why you shouldn't be there and feel that. It has all its strategies for bypassing being in the body. So therefore, actually being in the body in the event of fear or meeting the fear itself as a conscious choice, as an energy in your body, is not easy for our psychic being. That's why we have to ground ourselves in the physical body. And fear is a powerful core means of entering into that. Once you meet the energetics of fear in your body, the uncomfortable energetics of it, in this context of discovering to be with fear, you begin to notice something other than the fear itself. You begin to notice that it's an awakening event that can be encouraged and directed to different parts of your body. That becomes a power, a force. I call it, it's the expression of Shakti that's based on a truth of our existence. See, truth has more to do with existing, than Shakti, which has to do with being in existence. So truth always shows up on the edge between existing and non-existing. So when we meet fear in our body, we begin to move into a relationship with that quality of ourselves that is on the threshold between existing and non-existing. This ability to be there is the power inherent in our embodied consciousness to know the immediacy of truth. Okay, I think that's it. I think everything that needed to be said was said. I think you can just be with yourself for a minute. Let's just take a few minutes before I open it up to the room to just be what showed up for you in your body, in your system. Just be present with yourself and your body, not with any ideas that have come up, but in your body. Feel what your body is doing. I can feel what my body is doing. It's quite excited. It feels the thrill of what I now know, what truth is. Thrill of truth in the body. And what does that have to do with going beyond fear? Well, perhaps that has to do with freedom. What might that say about what we are in truth? Okay. All right, so whoever would like to come first? Come first. I can't believe I talked for 45 minutes, so we're probably, gives us 45 minutes anyway to hear from you and to interact. So we're good. All right, let's go down the line.
Okay, first up is Sonia.
Sonia,
Hi.
the voyeurist, has come forward first
Yeah,
forward.
first thing, I had to come forward today because this resonates completely with me, everything what you said. And I have to say, I think my big awakening was from fear.
Very good.
Yeah, when I had my Kundalini awakening 5 years ago, I felt so many internal fear. I couldn't place it. I had it also from the psych, I think, and all over. And I think it was my threshold, I think.
Very good. You've got it. That's it. That is your PowerPoint. That is the place where truth comes out of nothing into existence
Right.
in your own system. See,
It-
very good.
I never understood my fear, but now after this talk, I just, yes, yes, I could place it.
That's good. And with that, with the
Mhm.
Kundalini awakening event, you got
Mhm.
confirmation that something had happened, that you crossed a threshold in your experience, right?
Yeah. But my question to you is, why did I experience this threshold through so much fear? Because in my life, I actually went in duality of a lot of trust. I always had a lot of trust in, and I lost all my trust, all my trust, because there was so much fear. So I had
Trust
to, yeah,
is an illusion.
right.
Trust is a made-up adaptation to make it safer to be
Right.
in life. That's why trust or distrust are expressions, or acceptance or doubt are expressions of this inability to be with the primal reality that existence is always vulnerable. It is unstable. It is always a here now. And therefore we separate ourselves from the peril of our existence and we stay in our adaptions. We stay in our comfortable zone, especially in your case, a psychic being that is positive, that's sattvic. So a sattvic being discovering fear is finding truth in their embodied physical existence. It'll always be the first chakra. Now, Kundalini arising will go through the doorway of the doubt of our own physical existence that lies in the fundamental primitive need to survive, to exist. And therefore, it'll activate those primal structures in our body. Ready or not, here it comes. So it's a heralding of a greater truth, but it initially starts as the most diminished fear condition of our consciousness in a body. So it popped the bubble of your psychic being. It brought you into reality. It brought you into the immediacy of life as it is. And inevitably, it brought you the courage that you're now demonstrating, this willingness to
Yeah.
step outside of the bound of your safety, of your trusting or your not trusting of what you know before.
Shree, but is there a reason why it came through fear with me and not something else?
Because it came through the first chakra.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the
That's
answer to that question. It's the
okay.
eruption of truth as possibility of non-existence in the body. So it's reptilian. It's right down in the very core reptilian foundation of our embodiment.
That's how it felt.
Yeah, that's how it felt. And that's how it is, right?
You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. If you live a sattvic bubble, then this is a real shock. And a lot of people go into trauma or psychological instability. But if you lived a life where you took chances, where you met fear as a human being to whatever level that might have shown up, then you're more prepared. So that if the first chakra finally opens, you have a greater capacity to be there when it happens. Otherwise, it's like a trauma. It's a shock. I can't tell you how many people I've met who have had premature awakenings, which were events just like you're describing, before they were organized as a person to be with it. So they live their life on top of a stress structure that's basically psychic, but also in their body, that came because truth came prematurely. And so they're operating in life in a state of almost permanent fracture and vulnerability, trying to keep themselves together and organized in order to survive. So there is that other version of a premature awakening that can get in the way of the organization of our individuality as we come into life as individual people. And there are people who are listening to me. I know this is true with many young people who have come, is this shock of truth came before they were organized as a person to hold it. That you must have lived, you have lived enough of your life that your individuality was organized and it was sattvic. So it had some resilience and some
I was
positive qualities.
I was on the edge, I have to say.
All right.
But I'm here, so I survived it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this is applicable to you too, in some extent. So there you go.
Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you for your clarity. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Lucy.
Lucy. And Carl. Yes. The witness.
Did you ask them to?
Okay. He's the talker.
Oh, wow. I get Carl. Look at, he's got his Superman glasses on. I love it. Umbrella Academy glasses on. Cool. It's cool. Hey, good to see you.
Glad to inspire so much
Rajasic.
Response.
My experience of what you had said comes across as like often at night when I wake up, it comes across as an immensity.
Ah,
And it's like, and it's an immensity which, as I feel into, becomes it's like a death, but it's not like a death of annihilation. And there's a feeling of egoity, kind of an anxious egoity, but it's off on the periphery. So there's able to identify with the immensity and the truth of the immensity. And at the same time, the death is like, it's the death of egoity. And there's that feeling of both of those there.
yeah, you're right there. That's the peril where
Yeah.
your ego is present with the truth that's come. And so you're in the immediacy of the peril. And of course, you're living in that boundary. And then, of course, that opens you up to the purpose of your existence and the opportunity of life. But it's clearly that's what it is. It is both love and truth
Yes.
showing itself in a much larger domain than your habitual waking consciousness can access.
And that brings up that you mentioned Shakti. In the daytime, the immensity has more of a creative quality to it. I mean, you have trees and birds and light and sky.
It's
But
the
at night,
immediacy.
you're in that darkness. The other thing about the darkness, that the thought that came up was like, existence is already, the worst thing that could happen is existence. What was meant by that is like, once existence started, it was stuck. It was like you jumping over into the off the mountain.
Right,
Like,
in those seconds before I hit
yeah.
the water. Right.
So all of existence has got to happen now. So it's a kind of you spoke to it very clearly. So thank you.
Yeah, it's very good. Thank you, Carl. So there you go. Another expression of it is the nature of taking a body is a same kind of leap when you're in the subtle plane and you've been living for some time in the subtle plane. You see all these other people just jumping and taking the body and you say, okay, I got to do this. I got to do this. And whoop. And then it's an irrevocable choice for years as you find yourself falling from that initial choice into that which is still unknown. So that's actually why we have troubles coming into existence, because we've already were awakened in a past life. See, people who don't awaken, they just go from one life to another, just like these children jumping off the mountain. But when you're awake, then you're aware of the risk. Then it's more real. So this is the nature of many people, especially young people who have come during this time. It's sort of a naivete. Everybody else doing it, they jump into the bandwagon. Before you know it, it's been an irrevocable choice to come into existence in a body. And then you got to have to learn how to live with that. You got to learn how to develop the courage to come into existence as an embodied being. Yeah, so Carl's figured this out, and he's holding it. It's a reality. It's of course occurring when he's not in waking consciousness. And I'll tell you, that's the characteristic. When you've just had an opening, your system is very vulnerable. And in that vulnerability is when you can access the remaining hints of fear that are still shaping your reality. Because you're not really fully there, so therefore you can't really resolve anything. You don't have control. You're vulnerable. And it's those moments that you're actually closer to truth than the other times when you're in your embodied self, when you've got it more together, when you're in the momentum of your day. Yeah, it brings something else for you up, Carl. Looks like it. Oh,
Wait a second.
no sound yet.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
I was awake. This is when I wake up in the night. I wasn't in
I
it.
got it. So you woke up in that vulnerable egoic place where it was just,
I mean, the immensity
Right.
feels like it's kind of a presence coming through,
yeah,
but it's like, oh my God, how can I hold this?
that's right.
And that's what so.
Yeah. Very good. So you're really there in the dilemma of an ego becoming divine in that moment. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Carl. Perfect addition to this.
Okay. Next up, we're going to go to Stockholm.
Hey, Stockholm, oh, look at the crowd. Okay, who's first?
It's Caroline.
Caroline, namaste, welcome.
So I recognize myself a lot in this fear that we've been talking about. And for me, there is two types of fear. Like one that I recently started to be able to feel in my body, that's more in my belly, like a thrill. And then there is this other fear that I started to feel when I was around 20 or something, that was more a very overwhelming dark fear.
Existential fear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me previously, it's been, I thought that that was anxiety, but now I think that perhaps this was my root chakra trying to open up or something, but I didn't have the framework to hold it, or I didn't know what to do. So I tried everything I can just to shut it down. And and I think I succeeded quite well. But
You succeeded. Now, there are some who don't succeed in that undertaking, and they end up stuck in between the two. But congratulations on succeeding. Because it is a stage, a premature awakening is simply you're not informed enough. You don't know, you don't have the right information. You don't know how to be with it because it's fundamental, and it's shaking the root of your existence. That's what it's doing. Yeah.
No, it felt like before that happened, I was living naive and kind of I had hybris and lived a life and thought I could do everything, and that smacked me down quite hard into the ground. Like I got afraid of animals, I got afraid of situations and people, and it was very limiting. And but I always had was afraid of the dark, and I still am. And that's the kind of fear that I don't really know how to handle, like this uncontrollable dark fear.
That's the psychic fear. It has no basis in embodied truth, but it may have a basis in the journey of the psychic being between lives. So that is an echo of something that isn't really lived, but as a kind of a dread quality, but it lives in our psychic awareness. So what you can do is take the fear of the darkness and the fear of it, and then you have to pull it into your body, because it's in your aura, it's not in your body. Pull it into your body and start letting your body experience that dread or that fear of the darkness. And then you can meet it in your body. It'll move very quickly. Now that your Kundalini is more active and is more vigorous, you can resolve all the remaining darkness by embracing it in your body.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect. The purpose of this is the empowerment of what you're becoming, right? You're becoming skillful in coming forward into existence. It looks like courage, but for you, you have to do it. It is, you're now your Dharma. You are now a warrioress. You're now in the attitude to coming into existence as an opportunity and purposeful. And we feed something every time we take an action aligned with that purpose that's greater than us, yet is us embodied. So this is the path. Perfect. So Caroline, thank you.
Is there anyone else in Stockholm?
Yeah, anybody else in the room?
Right, there's a lot of people.
Hi, Shree.
Hello. Namaste. Please say your name.
I'm Stina.
Stina.
Stina, yes.
Stina.
Oh, so, okay, I didn't prepare.
Perfect. You saw somebody jump off the cliff. Now you're jumping off the cliff.
Yeah, so I was meditating with you some day ago when you had the morning meditation, and I got this experience of like my head was this coconut and there was this like shopping experience.
Oh, perfect analogy.
Possibility. And it was a bit scary actually. So yeah, after I felt like, am I ready for this meditations?
That's right. That's what the ego will do. One part of you knows this is something really happening energetically. Something in you now know that the stop force is trying to enter, but the visceral part of you doesn't trust it, right? It's still looking through the filters of, is this safe? And can I handle this? Or will I be overtaken? These are projections into the future. So this, yeah, good. Stay with this. Good.
Can I ask you?
Yes, please.
Because you said also that about this premature happenings, and that's actually a fear for me.
Okay, now there it is. That's the trauma of a premature psychic awakening, that when that happened, you weren't capable of it. Even though now you are capable of it, that traumatized part of you comes forward in your current state of consciousness, and you lose access to that part of you that would welcome this. You see? So you got to catch that part that gets overtaken by the old self and her trauma when that happened. There we go. There you go. And meet her. Meet her as a piece of yourself from the place you are now.
Yes.
There you go. Now what are you noticing as you do this, right? Like truth, like love.
Yes, I'm just very happy.
Yeah, very happy. Very happy. Very, very Swedish. Just very happy. All right, there it is. Because ultimately we have nothing to fear. Fear is not real, but we have fear of fear itself. And then we have fear of itself, and then fear of fear of itself, and then fear of fear. So we create a callus of fear, of fearing, that separates us from something that's so simple and so immediate in the body that we don't know how to be with it, because we've created these structures of separation. So once you pierce this, the coconut cracks, pops right open. And then you have that delicious, white, tasty, sweet meat to enjoy.
Yeah, with you.
Yeah, you do. All right, perfect. Thank you. Namaste.
Someone else? Yannicka.
Okay, Yannicka.
We are done.
I get. Yeah.
I just enjoy being with you here. This is the
yeah.
first time we have come together.
Yeah.
We were meditating before, and now it's the first time we've been together live since
All right.
February.
Perfect celebration
It's February.
of my virtual visit to Stockholm.
I'm sorry, we have one more up.
Okay, good.
Yay.
Good. Perfect. Well, look at who's here. Namaste. It's been a while.
Yay.
Oh, no. I just get tears in my eyes always when I come up to you, even if you're on the screen. Oh, okay. So this was not prepared either. But I just wanted to, because when you talked about this, I don't even know if I can remember it correct, but you said something about the truth in existence and non-existence simultaneous.
Yes, simultaneous.
Yeah. And when you said that, something really,
Resonated.
yes.
Oh,
So-
there it is. Yeah. Be with that for a second, because that's the truth of your own being. You just access right there. Yeah, that's very powerful.
And there's, yeah, it's a joy, but not the normal joy, you know. It's,
Yeah.
and it was just feeling so true.
Yes.
And
Yes, it is.
and what I felt was also that everything that's trying to keep the existence as the reality is it's not only an illusion because it's also existing, but it's I just felt how it's not necessary. And
Exactly. That you just cracked open the habit of ego. It will always come back and start coming into that same place in your belly, in your diaphragm that has in the past organized your life, because the human body carries the remnant of those habits. So we just pierce through it again, but it's easy to pierce once it's been pierced before. And so it just opened up. And there was truth that's been there all along. But that's the freshness of being with the teacher. That's the freshness of being engaged with other people, engaged in truth at the level of peril, not just a happy kind of sharing of truth, but in an event of truth manifesting. So as Margarita is pointing to your own capacity to be a rupture in the fabric of creation, and that can do what happened for you right now to others, for others. So be the event that allows for truth to come into existence. And you do that by experiencing this in yourself, and then speak into the world and come into the world from that place. That's always the invitation. And it takes us always further than where we were able to get before. It will be the next further, the next stage, the next possibility of bringing truth into our lives. And that's what we're going to explore these next 3 days. We're going to make this an event for you if it's not already happening. We're going to fear is a doorway to truth. This possibility, this is the entry into the structures that keep us in a lesser and diminished and incapable condition of being, that prevent us from recognizing the peril of not being truth, the cost of not living in truth. Those are the true things to fear. There you go. Thank you, Margarita, bringing that forward.
namaste.
Namaste. Okay, we're going to have to.
You have one more.
Okay.
Gabriel.
Gabriel. All right, you snuck in through the side door. Okay, welcome.
I don't have a question or anything special to share, but I just want to say hi. And
Hi.
There's a lot of thoughts going around in my head about all these things that you guys are talking about, but I can't really put words on what I'm thinking about. But
What's going on in your body? What are you experiencing right now?
I'm really hot. I'm feeling really warm.
Aha, all right, so something got ignited, you know, something got lit, right?
It's been like that for the last week or so. That I've been feeling a lot of like heat and itchiness, and like all the meditations has been horrible. Like just really like full of like, I can't sit still for 5 minutes when I meditate with Caroline. She's like, can you just go to a different room next time, because you're just making me feel horrible as well. So we've been, yeah, we had to separate a little bit because I can't sit still. So that's what's been going on.
All right, so thank you. I'm glad we got, you didn't have to think that. Notice you just wanted to experience and you had everything to say. Yeah, so this is the nature of awakening to truth, because the body doesn't know how to be with the energy that's accessible to it at first. So it's this heat, this ignition, it's ignition that's creating an acceleration in that principle becoming real for you in your life. So it's what we begin to live for. We begin to want the thrill of jumping off the cliff. We want to live on the edge of that transition. You see, that's the aspiration. That's the fire, but it's uncomfortable as hell, right?
Yes.
uncomfortable, uncomfortable, uncomfortables. This is not about comfort. This is about truth. This is about purpose. So knowing that the purpose of the uncomfortableness is there, then that makes you willing to be undone or redone, done differently.
Mm.
So Gabriel, that's the thing. And the secret is your commitment to the process, not kind of a lazy sort of, well, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, because that also is an avoidance. It's a tamasic avoidance of the opportunity to live on the edge of the reality of what you're becoming, because you have a purpose greater than you're fully accessing right now. And it's beyond the boundary of your habitual, enjoyable life into a domain where you've not, it's actually been fear that's been shaping your unwillingness to live in a more committed life. So committing is how we live off the bridge. That's how we walk off the cliff. So that's your path forward, is stay aligned with what's coming until that force itself makes the choices rather than your habitual way of being makes the choices. Then you're in your own orbit. Then you're living aligned with that living principle that you are. Until then, you have to keep choosing. That's my message to you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, that's it. Oh, Jonica's back. Okay, good. All right. So next up then is Philip.
Philip, welcome. Namaste. Good to see you.
I think you've answered my question.
Yeah, it often happens like that.
I felt blessed. I felt blessed by all the questions and answers. And so now it's kind of like, well, is this true? There is a relationship between confusion and fear.
Good. That's truth.
Or is there?
There is a relationship between confusion and doubt and distrust and fear. These things do not exist in truth. Truth is in your body, in your own experience. Truth is an event of being here now. Truth is thisness, nowness. It is what's here. So no other place. Only doubt and confusion can exist in that in-between territory where we're still being shaped by the old in the midst of the new, trying to come forward. So it's the same message for you, Philip, as Gabriel. It's a choosing and a commitment to align yourself with the unfolding truth that's coming in you, to take actions aligned with that truth unfolding, to be willing to be uncomfortable, to let go of the mind as the definer of the future or the interpreter of the present, and be in the immediacy of your embodiment. And that's going to bring up whatever
I'm
is left.
noticing.
Go ahead.
I'm noticing more and more of those moments where confusion is, well, where am I? What's next? And then stop and listen. There seems to be opportunity there.
Perfect. That's your entry point. Confusion is your entry point into finding an underlying truth. Yeah, think of the vulnerability of confusion, the vulnerability of the not knowing what to do or how to be with what's arising. Being in that vulnerability as an event in your body becomes a doorway. So you found your door. Perfect. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you. All right, next up is Angela. Yeah.
Okay, there we got her. There she is. Angela. Namaste.
Namaste. I wanted to come up because I've been in a process, and what you spoke to today resonated very much with me, particularly around the psychic. And how it started was this intense meeting of fears and projections. I was projecting outward onto people, into situations of self-doubt, my own self-doubt, of social isolation and bullying. And I just knew that that wasn't true, but it was very intense. I can still feel it in my body. Like I feel it in the gut. And there's, yeah, a lot of shaking. Yeah. So what I had come to learn and staying with the process is that it was really an energetic event and a really felt sense in the body. So at some point I realized what was happening, but it feels a bit like it's kind of an aftershock, you know, like there's been this like shock to the system and it's still present, but it's dissolving.
Got it. Exactly. Because you're being with it. So what's come up is a chunk of adaptions from your past in the vital that has made it so tangible that they're so strong. So you're having, with the fear is also the rebellion and the rage and the projections that come out of that. So fear, anger is one of the adaptions to fear. And then we can turn the anger on ourselves or outwardly. It can go any which way. So it's an event of trying to reconcile those structures in you, in your current consciousness. So when you come to your authority like you just did, and you put it into your body like you just did, it completes, it dissolves. You dissolve that chunk of yourself in this moment. And that's all you ever have to do, is meet that chunk into this moment until it's no longer part of any moment. Now, if you can do that when the first reactions start coming up, if you can find that territory quickly, then you don't have to spend a lot of time in misery stuck in that old pattern. You have the power, the capacity to convert this into a greater truth and reality, a greater purity and openness and capacity by meeting it, becoming skillful in recognizing when you got overtaken, and then knowing what to do with it is part of the benefit of being in this context, to be constantly put into the remembrance. But it's funny how the habit of the old creeps up and overtakes us in a way that we don't even recognize it's there until we're already an expression of that old adapted fear-based pattern of being. So we wake up in the midst of it is part of the process of completing those structures that still shape and live within us that we haven't fully met or come into relationship with. All right, Angela, perfect. Thank you. You're always a demonstration. You're so fast that most people don't get it. But
I just wanted to add this too, is what's happening simultaneously with all this is there's this immense love. And it's like whenever I look at anyone, it's just, I just feel that immense love. So that's been simultaneously happening.
yeah, it's this immense love that we serve the world. It's from that place that we go beyond ourselves willingly, without effort, because fear disappears in love. And this particular kind of love, fear has no entry point, no place to take root. So it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shree, and everyone who shared. Satchmahi, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Claudine, or maybe Prem,
Or maybe both.
or maybe both.
Oh,
No, Prem.
It's Prem.
Hello,
Prem,
hello everybody. Thank you, everybody running off this cliff into this unknown. And for me, it's like some very fiery and energetic rush to off the cliff and into that kind of collective reptilian sense of where I want to jump into its mouth, pull it inside out. And
I love this, Prem, about you.
What was demonstrated here was actually living that through everything that was presented for everybody. And I'm immensely grateful for you being a reference.
I am so happy to be the one to confirm the immediacy that you live in, the willingness to throw yourself into the midst of the mall of existence. So, of course, Prem, and others should know that it's his immense love that makes him have no other choice but to jump into the mouth of the beast and pull it inside out from there. So it is a noble quality in you, Prem, and I am glad to be the witness and the honoring of that quality in yourself.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Julia.
Julia.
Hey, Julia. Good to see you.
Namaste. I
Hello.
guess green is the theme today. New life.
Here we have
all
orange
there.
skies, so I have to wear green. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, you do. Oh, God. We have all your smoke, though.
Plenty to go around. So Shree, a couple of weeks ago in the question and answer in addressing Heidi's question about psychic trauma, you alluded to techniques for addressing that. And Mariana Kaplan is offering a workshop this weekend, which I heard about through New Dharma, in which she's bringing somatic experiencing, among others, to address developmental and acute trauma. I'm wondering what kind of overlap there might be between the techniques you alluded to and what she has to bring.
She uses first, it's completely compatible and it would be consistent. That would support you in your, the way you've been able to come to this so far and to deepen it. Just bring this set of skills to you because, see, the psychic has no reality. The psychic trauma you can't solve psychologically.
Right.
The only way you can solve the psychological trauma is to pull in your aura close into your body until you can feel it in your body. So your aura, your weakness is yours, too expanded. You take on other people's crap and all that. So when you pull it in, the crap that's in there starts coming into the body and you can feel it. So that's the territory to be with. If it becomes overwhelming, you use the grounding cord, the hollow tube from your first chakra to the center of the earth, and you send the energy that's too much for you down, and you begin to discover the emptiness, the quietude, the peace in the psychic body. So therefore, that can solve the psychic trauma maybe more directly and effectively than the psychological process of meeting it and all the attriation and resourcing and all the other set of skills she brings. But it's useful because your ego is so programmed to dealing with trauma that it needs to unravel that habit of solving the problem, which is a fear-based adaptation in itself, and discover that you're yourself the solution to the resolution of your own trauma. Ultimately, Julia, this is what all your work with me is about, is to find that place of rest and anchor within yourself that is inherently free and true already, and use that to come into your life and create a new way to be. So whatever you do that's aligned with that will work.
Thank you, Shree.
You're welcome. Thank you, Julia.
All right, next up is Courtney.
Courtney, good to see you. So how did this conversation resonate?
This is me.
It is you. All
This is
right.
me. Everything
Hello,
you said-
mask. Hello, my
Yes.
fear-based reality. Yes. So the idea here is so you get a little perspective on that.
Yes, I wish you had said some of this to me earlier. I learned a
Well,
lot.
You know, all good things come in their own time. But yeah, no, it is the right time right now. And it is, how's that feel? So have you been listening to this? What you're noticing as you're hearing all this?
I mean, the usual. But it's funny, I remember when one of my openings, and as it closed, I felt just the fear itself, the human part of it, just in the lower chakra, just reaffirming and building back stronger. And I couldn't stop it. I felt everything coming back.
Yeah, and
In
how
the
did that
system.
feel? How did that feel? Like in your
Well, it left a lot. It left a trail of fear. I mean, it just left a complete. Yeah, completely. Of every single thing.
Got it.
Everything.
All right.
I struggled to leave the house at one point. So yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, that was your truth coming forward, but not strong enough for the battle. So it was a defeat. But the secret of the defeat is you get back up, and you have, and you still are.
Slowly.
All right, so you're slow. When it's done, you'll get it. Each of us carry a certain quantum of fundamental fear, existential fear in our lives, and our body's the repository of it. So some of us have to fight this battle and get defeated and stand up again and get defeated more than others. So in your system, this is it is continuing to wake up to the fact that you are a warrior. You are here to be a warrior, to come into life courageously, and that any action, anything you take that's aligned with that coming into existence with the purpose of your being, which is to be a warrior for truth, for a greater love, strengthens your ability to tolerate you awakening to that capacity in you. So it has to be in your lived life, because that's where the ego reclaims territory. Because the lived life is based on the veils, is based on the fear-based adaptions. So you have to open up your lived life in a new way. And that could be as simple as coming to Washoe for a week. It could be as simple as going someplace by yourself for the purpose to come to truth or to come to India. You need a leap in your outer life to strengthen that warrior character in you. So this is the opportunity, Courtney, and it is a commitment, obviously, and it's something that's going to be disturbing to the existing order. But that's how you come out of the tamas, is the rajas of a choice that you follow through with. That's what I invite, and you can use our relationship as a supporter of that warrior in you. Because you know my love for you, but my love for you is not as this kind of crippled human being kind of getting by. My love for you is for the truth that you are that has yet to manifest. Okay. So use that. That's my conch call to Courtney. The battle is here. Don't fuck around. Can't retreat to the woods. Get over this faint-heartedness, you getting ruled by your attachments. Come out of that sense of false obligation and duty and discover the power that you have. There's the Gita, kid. Got it? All right. Love you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Okay.
How many more?
There's 3 more.
See?
Okay.
How indulgent you are today.
Yeah, I'm just going to skip, go to Maggie next.
Yeah. Yes.
Maggie.
Finally.
My walking, talking, traumatized psychic. Yes. Hi, Maggie. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hey.
Wow. I don't know where to start. But my body's just very activated. Yeah, I just have been feeling so cut off, you know, so crushed. And it only recently dawned on me that it's like the absolute. I didn't know that's what I was doing, you know, I didn't know that's what I was choosing, asking for. It's just.
Yeah, so right now, this is your overwhelmed, traumatized child. This that piece of yourself rising up in your body to be met. It's nothing else but her voice, the little girl's voice, the one who couldn't handle it. It is not who you are now, but it's what's right there in your experience. So you have the secret is to bring it into the experience in a specific location in your body. This desperation, this lost opportunity, this anguish, this conflicting structures of longing for and fear of.
Yeah, it's like, I just feel dead, you know, it's like gone, whatever.
It's not gone right now. This is it itself. It is here right now with you, Maggie. That's what's happening. You're recovering it. The veils have parted and you're in the event. Not the story, not the emotional content. That's happening, but that's not the truth of this. So pull your aura in, pull your consciousness into your body. Just tuck it in, bring it in close. So you can own, as this is your own experience. Okay. Connect to the grounding cord, to the center of the earth. Connect yourself, your body, here, now, sitting. Stay inward, stay inward. Stay in the body. And now be there. Okay, feel that first chakra. Feel that according. Don't let the emotions take you away from. That's the trauma of your child. You're going to feel it, but don't let it demonstrate. You're going to restrain the inclination of the behavior. Bring it into your body. Okay, now breathe. Very important to breathe consciously. Let your breath occupy your body. There we go. Keep breathing. Be aware of your first chakra. Be aware of your grounding cord. Stay with yourself. Are you finding a location in your body where this is happening?
It just feels sort of like a shell. I don't know.
All right, so I want you to touch your throat right now. Touch your throat. Okay. Now pound on your heart area. Okay. Hello, what's there? Okay, now go into your diaphragm. Hit your diaphragm. Hello, what's there? Go into your belly. Hit your belly button. Hello, what's there? Go down to your genital area. You don't have to hit it, but just be aware of it. And your first chakra, just say hello. Okay, are you noticing anything?
Like I'm just disconnected from my legs. Maybe I'm.
Okay, so, but you're not in your body yet. So I'm feeling it. It's in just in your heart, just above your diaphragm, up heading towards your heart. It's gone to the left side, just went to the left side. So there's an anguish in there. Whoa. Oh, grief. Wow, took my breath away. You have, yeah. This is the fear of not being able to come into existence. Ouch. Ooh. So you can't feel this right now? Or you can?
Yeah, but it's more like I just don't want to anymore.
Oh, all right. So that not
It's
wanting,
not even.
it's just a no. Where's the no? Where's the I don't want to? I'm feeling the back of my spine near the first chakra, between the first and the second. The back of the spine. Are you finding that? Can you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can't drop it into the back body. I mean, it doesn't even belong to me. This isn't even mine.
Well, if you're feeling it, it is for right now. It's a reflection of yours.
Yeah, I don't know how to connect with this.
Well, you're connecting with it right now. That I don't know how to connect to is a lie. You're connecting to it. It's just this part of you that's in denial, that's in resistance, that's in rebellion, that's don't want to, is creating a conversation that's not allowing you to know your own experience. You're retreated into the psychic mind as protection from the immediacy of the trauma. And you can only heal that by right here, right now, not listening to the negative, I can't do this. I don't know, I'm not feeling this. That is simply a bypass, a habitual, strong, willful no that you're perpetuating. It's an error. Now, are you noticing anything in your body now?
Yeah, I can feel the solar plexus, maybe the left side.
Okay, good. Good, that's a start. So we don't have enough time, but I want you also to look at the diaphragm, taking that left side up towards the diaphragm. Because it's like vomiting. It's like a throw up. Yeah, now it's the solar plexus again. Okay, so something's trying to come into existence right now, Maggie. It's in the fire element in your third chakra. Okay, so I want you to breathe into that area of your body, be aware of it. I don't know if you know the fire elemental mantra, but it's a good time to just think it and be in your body and let this incubate. Okay, and I'm going to leave you with that. So thank you. Just be with yourself.
Okay. Next up is Usa.
Ooh, Osa.
Osa, namaste.
Namaste. Not yet. We don't have her yet.
You want me to ask her to unmute? You did.
Not yet.
Also, you there.
No, finally I succeeded.
I know the feeling.
Oh my God, I have been waiting for this opportunity. Hello, Satsang and Shree. I think it has been very good for me to wait because I've gone through so extraordinary, forceful, energetic experiences in my body through the whole satsang. Whew. And it is my stomach, my old problem. And the fear rose up. But at the same time, I felt this connection to you and to the force. And it worked so furious in my stomach, and it opened up and it pulsated and it went on, and I was with it all the time, and then it calmed down, and I experienced a quite new feeling throughout my body, from the bottom and up to the throat, and or even in my head. And because we meditated in the Stockholm group before the satsang, and then I felt something very new. I came into my body and I looked from inside out through my whole body, and then came this work in my stomach.
Perfect. So welcome.
This fear to jump.
Yes. Woo, you're there. You've jumped. Congratulations. Oh, well, of course, this has been happening, preparing. So
yeah. For 7 months, I haven't been to the hospital, you know. So this is a miracle. Yeah. Thank you so much for helping me through this.
I'm happy to.
Now I can feel I have some courage.
All right. Well, this is a perfect series of program for you to come established in how to be in that endlessly awakening event of now that's have become available to you. So it's always new. It always is. Truth is always that newness like this. I've never been here before. Newness. Perfect.
Thank you so much, both of you.
All right.
Thank you for taking.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so Satchmai is telling me we're done. Well, we've just begun. We're done in this moment, but we've just begun. So hang on. I look forward to you joining us as we continue in the unfolding of this possibility. We're using fear as the doorway and enter deeper into the truth of our freedom and our true authority. So this is the opportunity, and this is what's going to be demonstrating itself for all of you. For those of you who've committed to these 3 programs, you'll see the momentum as we travel through this process together. So, all right, so now we're going to complete. I'm going to have some silence and stillness, so it's just 5 minutes or so, and use that to be in your body and to integrate what's come to you, whatever form that may have taken, be an experience, be an immediacy of what's there. There's nothing else to think or do with this. I believe that this particular recording will be a powerful resource that you'll be able to use to keep empowering the opening that we're speaking of. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shree. All glory to the Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.